My name is Julia Brennan. I'm 28 years old. 3 months ago, I sat at my parents' kitchen table with a gun pointed at my chest, while my mother slid papers across to me. "Sign them," she said calmly, like she was asking me to pass the salt. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely hold the pen. The papers were a quitclaim deed, transferring my grandmother's house, worth $1.4 million, from my name to theirs. My inheritance, my future, gone in 3 signatures. "Please," I whispered, "don't do this." My father clicked the safety off. "Sign. Now." I signed. But what my parents didn't know was that the notary they'd hired, Mrs. Chen, who'd known our family for 20 years, noticed my trembling hands, my tear-stained face, and the way my father kept his hand in his jacket pocket. She notarized the documents like they asked. Then she went straight to the police with a video she'd secretly recorded on her phone. Before I tell you what happened when detectives showed up at my parents' door with an arrest warrant, please like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment. Where are you watching from and what time is it there? I love hearing from all of you. Now, let me take you back to where this nightmare really began. Growing up in Portland, I learned early that my grandmother Evelyn was the only person in my family who truly saw me. My family: Dad, a commercial real estate developer who built a fortune and a temper in equal measure. Mom, who enabled every one of his rages and cruelties. My brother Daniel, 4 years older, who learned early to stay out of Dad's way by becoming invisible. And me, the disappointment. The one who couldn't do anything right. My parents gave criticism. My grandmother gave love. When I was 10, I brought home a report card with all A's except a B+ in math. Dad looked at it and threw it back at me. "You're not trying hard enough. Go to your room until you figure out how to be better." I cried all night. The next day, Grandma Evelyn showed up with cookies and sat with me while I did my homework. "Your father doesn't know how to be proud," she said quietly. "That's his failure, not yours." She never criticized Dad to my face, but I knew she saw who he really was. At 17, I got accepted to Reed College with a partial scholarship. I was so excited. It was my dream school. Dad said, "We're not paying for that hippie school. You can go to community college and live at home, or you can figure it out yourself." Mom agreed. "You're not responsible enough for a real university." I went to Grandma Evelyn's house in tears. She listened to the whole story, then pulled out her checkbook. "How much do you need?" "Grandma, I can't." "How much?" She wrote me a check for $30,000. "For your first year, we'll figure out the rest as we go." That was who she was, the only parent I'd ever really had. I graduated 4 years later with a degree in social work. Grandma came to graduation. My parents didn't. They said they had a prior commitment, Daniel's golf tournament. After college, I got a job at a nonprofit helping domestic violence survivors. The pay was terrible, but the work mattered. Grandma told me she was proud of me every time we talked. My parents told me I was wasting my education. 2 years ago, Grandma Evelyn got diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She had maybe 6 months, the doctors said. I took leave from work to care for her. I moved into her house, a beautiful craftsman in Northwest Portland worth about $1.4 million. I cooked her meals, managed her medications, drove her to appointments, sat with her during the bad nights. My parents visited twice in 6 months. Each time they spent more time talking about her estate than about her health. In her final weeks, Grandma Evelyn called her attorney to her bedside. She wanted to update her will. "I'm leaving the house to Julia," she told him while I was in the room. "She's earned it. She's the only one who showed up." "Mom, you can't," my mother said. She'd arrived unannounced that morning. "The house should go to the family equally." "Julia is my family. The rest of you are relatives." Grandma's voice was weak but firm. "This is my decision." The attorney prepared the documents. Grandma signed them. 2 witnesses signed. Everything was legal and clear. My mother's face looked like stone. Grandma Evelyn died 3 weeks later. I was holding her hand. At the funeral, my father pulled me aside. "We need to talk about the house." "Grandma left it to me. There's nothing to talk about." His hand clamped around my upper arm, hard enough to bruise. "You're going to transfer it to us. That house should have been mine." "Let go of me." He did, but his eyes were cold. "You're making a mistake." The will went through probate smoothly. The attorney contacted me when everything was finalized. "The house is yours, free and clear. Your grandmother set aside money to cover the property taxes for 5 years, and there's no mortgage. She wanted you to have security." I cried reading his email. Even in death, Grandma was taking care of me. I moved into the house officially. I loved every corner of it. The window seat where Grandma used to read, the kitchen where we'd baked together, the garden she'd tended for 40 years. My parents called constantly, demanding I sell and split the proceeds, threatening to contest the will, saying I'd stolen their inheritance. I blocked their numbers. Then, 2 months ago, my brother Daniel showed up at my door. He looked terrible, exhausted, scared. "Jules, I need to warn you," he said. "Dad's planning something. I don't know what, but he's been meeting with lawyers, asking about property transfers, talking about getting what's his." "The house is legally mine." "I know, but Dad doesn't care about legal. He cares about winning." Daniel looked at me with genuine concern. "Be careful, please." He left, and I locked every door and window. 3 weeks later, my parents called from a number I didn't recognize. "Julia, we need to discuss this reasonably," Mom said. "Can you come to the house? We'll have dinner, talk it through like adults." I should have said no, but part of me, the part that still wanted parents who loved me, thought maybe they were ready to accept Grandma's decision. I drove to their house on a Wednesday evening, the same house I grew up in, though it had never felt like home. Dad opened the door. "Come in." The dining room table was set, but there was no food, just papers, legal documents. "Sit down," Dad said. I sat. That's when I saw Mom pull the gun from her purse, a small black pistol that looked enormous pointing at me. "What are you doing?" My voice came out strangled. "We're fixing a mistake," Dad said calmly. He slid the papers toward me. "These are quitclaim deeds transferring the house from you to us. You're going to sign them." "This is insane! You can't—" Mom pressed the gun against my ribs. I felt the cold metal through my shirt. "Sign them, Julia. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." "Someone will know. The notary will—" "We have a notary coming in 15 minutes. You're going to sign these papers, tell her everything's fine, and then you're going to leave. And if you ever mention this to anyone, we'll tell them you came here high and threatening. We'll say you were unstable. We'll make sure no one believes you." My hands were shaking. "Please, Grandma wanted me to have—" "Your grandmother was a foolish old woman who let you manipulate her." Dad's voice was ice. "This house is mine by right. I was her son. You're nothing." I looked at my mother. Surely she'd stop this. Surely some part of her would. But her finger was on the trigger, and her eyes were empty. 20 minutes later, the notary arrived, Mrs. Chen. I'd known her since I was a child. She'd notarized my college scholarship papers, my first apartment lease, dozens of documents over the years. She took one look at me and frowned. "Julia? Are you all right?" "She's fine," Dad said quickly. "Just emotional about transferring the property. Big decision." Mrs. Chen set up her supplies on the dining table. As she arranged her stamp and journal, I saw her eyes flick to my face, to my shaking hands, to the way my mother stood too close behind me. "These are quitclaim deeds?" Mrs. Chen asked, examining the documents. "Yes," Dad said. Standard transfer. Mrs. Chen looked at me directly. Julia, do you understand what you're signing? I tried to speak. Nothing came out. She understands, Mom said. Her hand was in her jacket pocket. I knew what was in that pocket. I need to hear from Julia, Mrs. Chen said firmly. Yes, I whispered. I understand. And you're signing these of your own free will. No one is forcing you. I felt the pressure of my mother's hand against my back, the unspoken threat. Yes, I said. My voice broke. My own free will. Mrs. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, All right, let's begin. She watched me sign each document. My hand shook so badly the signatures barely looked like my handwriting. Tears ran down my face, dripping onto the papers. Do you need a tissue? Mrs. Chen asked softly. She's fine, Dad snapped. Just finish. Mrs. Chen notarized each signature with her official stamp. She filled out her journal with careful, deliberate notes. She asked for my ID and my parents' IDs and recorded all the information. Then she packed up her supplies and left. I sat at that table feeling like I'd lost everything. The house, my future, the last piece of my grandmother. Get out, Dad said. I left. I drove home to my rental apartment. I'd kept it while moving into Grandma's house, and I cried for 3 hours straight. Then I called the police. My parents held me at gunpoint and forced me to sign over my inheritance, I told the dispatcher. Are you in immediate danger? No, I'm home, but they have a gun and they committed multiple felonies. The dispatcher took my information and said an officer would contact me. Detective Maria Santos called me an hour later. Ms. Brennan, I need you to tell me exactly what happened. I told her everything. The gun, the threats, the coerced signatures, the notary who witnessed it all. Did anyone else see this? Detective Santos asked. Just the notary, Mrs. Chen. But she won't help. She notarized the documents. She must think everything was legitimate. What's the notary's full name? I gave her the information, feeling hopeless. What proof did I have? My word against my parents. And those signed documents that said I'd transferred the house willingly. Detective Santos said she'd investigate and hung up. I spent the next 2 days in a fog of grief and shock. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, kept seeing my mother's finger on that trigger. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Julia? This is Margaret Chen, the notary. My stomach dropped. Mrs. Chen, Julia, I need you to know something. I could tell you were in distress during that signing. Your hands were shaking. You were crying. You couldn't make eye contact. And your mother stood too close to you the entire time. I'm sorry I put you in that position. Stop. Listen to me. I've been a notary for 35 years. I know coercion when I see it. But I also know that if I'd refused to notarize those documents, your parents might have hurt you in that moment. So I notarized them. And then I went straight to my car and called the police. I couldn't breathe. What? I recorded the whole encounter on my phone. I propped it up in my notary kit with the camera facing out. I have video of you crying, shaking, unable to speak. I have your mother standing behind you with her hand in her pocket. I have your father's threatening tone, and I gave all of it to Detective Maria Santos. I started crying. Why would you do that? Because I've known you since you were a little girl, and I knew your grandmother. Evelyn talked about you all the time. She loved you more than anything, and I know she'd want someone to protect you the way she always did. The police arrested my parents the next morning. Armed robbery, coercion, elder abuse for exploiting Grandma during her illness, multiple felony counts. The video Mrs. Chen recorded showed everything. My terror, my tears, my mother's hand in her pocket where the gun was hidden. My father's cold threats about making me look unstable if I told anyone. When they searched my parents' house, they found the gun, registered to my father, loaded. My attorney, provided by the domestic violence nonprofit I worked for, got the quitclaim deeds invalidated within a week. Documents signed under duress are void. The house was legally mine again. But the criminal case took longer. My parents hired an expensive attorney who tried to claim I'd made everything up, that I was mentally unstable, that the notary was lying. Then the prosecutor played Mrs. Chen's video in the preliminary hearing. You could hear my mother say, "Sign them, Julia." You could hear my voice crack as I whispered, "Yes," when Mrs. Chen asked if I was signing of my own free will. You could see my hands shake as I signed away my inheritance. The judge watched it twice. Then she ordered my parents held without bail pending trial. These defendants used lethal threat to steal a $1.4 million asset from their own daughter, the judge said. They represent a clear danger to the victim and the community. They've been in jail for 2 months now. The trial is set for next month. The prosecutor says it's one of the strongest cases she's ever seen. Video evidence, notary testimony, the gun, my brother Daniel, who's agreed to testify about Dad's violent history. My attorney says I can also sue them civilly for emotional distress, assault, and attempted theft. That the house is secure. No court will honor documents signed at gunpoint. But beyond the legal victory, something else has happened. Mrs. Chen and I have coffee every Sunday now. She's become the grandmother figure I lost when Evelyn died. She tells me stories about Grandma, things I never knew. How Grandma specifically asked her to keep an eye on me after she was gone. How they'd talked about my parents' greed and cruelty. Your grandmother knew this might happen, Mrs. Chen told me. She asked me to watch for any unusual property transfers after she passed. She said your parents would try to take what was yours. Even in death, Grandma was protecting me. My brother Daniel has apologized for not doing more over the years. We're building a relationship slowly. He's in therapy dealing with the trauma of growing up in that house, and I'm living in Grandma's house now, really living in it. I painted the spare bedroom and turned it into an office. I planted tomatoes in the garden. I sit in the window seat and read, the way Grandma used to. Every room holds her love. Every corner is a reminder that I was worth protecting. Here's what I've learned. Some parents see their children as extensions of themselves, as property, as obstacles to what they deserve. And when you refuse to play that role, they'll do anything to force compliance, even hold you at gunpoint. My parents didn't see me as a person with rights. They saw me as someone who'd stolen something that belonged to them. Never mind that it was my grandmother's property to leave as she chose. Never mind that I'd earned it by showing up, by loving her, by being there when she needed me. They felt entitled to it, so they took it. Or tried to. But here's what they didn't count on. Witnesses who actually care. A notary who'd known me since childhood and recognized coercion. A detective who took me seriously. An attorney who fought for me. A brother who finally found the courage to tell the truth. You can't commit crimes in the shadows when someone turns on the light. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you have family members who treat you like property, who feel entitled to what's yours, who use fear and threats to control you, please hear me. You deserve protection. What they're doing isn't love, it's abuse. And abuse doesn't become acceptable just because the abuser is related to you. Document everything. Tell people you trust. Record conversations if your state allows it. Get legal help. And understand that escaping abuse isn't betraying family, it's choosing survival. The hardest part for me wasn't the fear in that moment. It was accepting that my parents were willing to hurt me to get what they wanted. That money mattered more to them than my safety. That they'd rather see me terrorized than see me secure. But I've also learned this. The family you're born into isn't the only family you get. Mrs. Chen has been more of a mother to me in 3 months than my biological mother was in 28 years. The co-workers who brought me meals and helped me move back into Grandma's house are more siblings than Daniel was for most of my life. The attorney who worked my case pro bono because she believed in justice is more of an advocate than my parents ever were. Family isn't DNA. It's who shows up, who protects you, who sees you as a person worth saving. My grandmother knew that. That's why she left me the house, not because of the money, but because she knew I'd need a fortress, a safe place my parents couldn't take from me. And thanks to a notary who remembered a grandmother's request to watch over her granddaughter, that fortress still stands. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever had to stand up to family who felt entitled to what was yours? How did you find the courage? What helped you through it? Drop your story in the comments. And if this resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, you are not property. You are not an obstacle. You are a person with inherent worth and legal rights. And anyone who tries to take those from you, family or not, deserves to face the consequences. The trial starts in 4 weeks. I'll be there testifying, telling my truth, watching my parents face justice. And then I'm going home to the house my grandmother left me, the house I earned through love, the house that no one can take from me ever again.